as I told you, it's called the Jewish life in Venezuela before and during, even though it was called post. During, because the regime is still there. It will be a personal perspective, okay? And I will talk about my family story, the Venezuelan Jewish community, the way I see it, and all the national changes that reshaped Venezuela. That's the way we're going to deal with it. 1 second. Okay, the presentation is not moving. Okay. Wow. 1 second. Okay, so all I'm going to tell you is things that I witnessed. I live it. I live all these stories, the things I'm going to share with you. 1 second, I'm trying to get used to the, okay. And let's start from the beginning. My family my paternal family, okay, they came from Jerusalem. They from Iran, they arrived to Jerusalem on 1933. Then my grandfather left on about 1920. He left to Venezuela from Jerusalem, searching for opportunities. Okay. So far, my family is very, very related to Jerusalem. We have 4 generations buried in the Mount of Olives. That for a Jew from the diaspora, I think that's a lot, and it's a privilege to be there. And none of them were born in Jerusalem or Israel. They're all born outside, but are buried there. Specifically, my grandparents, the father and the mother of my father, okay, they passed away in Venezuela, and they were translated, they were taken to Jerusalem, okay? I mean, so all of them choose that their final resting place will be Jerusalem. So the Jerusalem is the center of our family, as it's to the Jewish world, and Venezuela is our journey, and that's what we're going to talk today. Here you can see my great-grandfather in Jerusalem. He's an Iranian. Here, my grandparents. By the way, my father is sitting here next to me. His parents, okay, are here sailing to Venezuela in 1929. And here are the thumbs of my family. We have 5 of them in the Mount of Olives. Here you see them. As far as my grandfather, okay, he arrived to Venezuela with nothing on the pockets. Okay, he started a small immigrant. He started here this small store, and here I can resume about more than 60 years of work. How he started small, he purchased the next store, another location. Finally, he built these department stores, okay, which is inspired. Many of you are from New York, and he was inspired by Macy's in New York. That was how the store looked inside. So here you have all his story, commercial study, as like most of the Jewish from Venezuela, okay? He helped to shape the commercial life in Venezuela. By the way, here, after he died, the governor of Aragua, which is the state, honored him with this diploma, with this recognition, because of his contribution to the city. My journey, as was told by Mary on the introduction, my family has 4 generations in Venezuela. I was the last one in my family that emigrated after 100 years in Venezuela. I was formed partly abroad. I studied in Boston engineering, but most of my professional life was in Venezuela. In the last 8 years, I am as a real estate in Israel. I immigrated with my wife and 3 daughters, and now all together we are building our new future in Israel with my family. So, to understand this story, we need to see what was built in Caracas. I prepared for you a very short video about Caracas so you can feel house a strong city, the infrastructure. Okay, so? So in this 40-second video, okay, I wanted to show you to have a feeling about Caracas, Venezuela. It is a vibrant city, and all this story I'm going to show you Venezuela was taking place in here. By the way, all the material, all the videos I'm going to share, everything was prepared especially for this webinar. So in Venezuela, a small Jewish community built something remarkable. Okay, I'm very proud to be part of that community. And here we can see this is Hebraica, okay, which most of our social and sport lives takes here. Okay, shortly I will go into more details. And here on the right is the Puerto Azul, is the beach where we go on vacations. I will go into details immediately. So in Venezuela was a country that worked, okay? Effort was rewarded, and there were lots of opportunities for the immigrants. My community, the Caracas Jewish community, built institutions, Jewish educations. It made a network of organizations. We're going to see now all the list of institutions that were created. There was a structure and a secure environment. We felt inside the community, we felt very well, very protected once we are inside. While I was living in Venezuela, I used to say that, one second here. I used to say that my daughters live inside the Jewish community, but I live in Venezuela. Even though it's one inside the other, there is a big difference. Because once you live inside the community, for example, here, which is Hebraica, is the main place. Okay, you can see here the football, the tennis, the pool. This is the school here. By the way, this is here my house, my home. I was walking distance from this place, okay? And that's a bubble that we live in Venezuela. Puerto Azul, another gorgeous place. You can see here all the yachts, all the buildings, the residentials, all the sand. You know, we have great memories, a great life here. And that's, if I had to summarize in one slide, we have a very good quality of life in Venezuela. Here I show you, this ecosystem, all the institutions. I will not go one by one, but the idea, this institution, the CAIV, represents the community outside. For the Sephardi community, for the Ashkenazi community, Hebraica, the photo I just showed you, the schools, Moray Luces, where I graduated, Sinai, the yeshivot, this one is Zionist activity, the childhood for the youth identity, Maccabilandia, the synagogues. There is about 15 synagogues in the best moments. And the list goes and goes, the cemeteries. So as you can see, the leaders of my community, they build an ecosystem of institutions in order to give to its member all they need, to supply all their needs. From prosperity, we are today, unfortunately, struggling for survival, okay? As a result also of the country, okay? Venezuela, or this community, on the golden years, it was about 25,000 Jews, and the Jewish school system, and by the way, here among our audience is Diana, the previous director of the school. Okay, the Jewish school was built for about 2,000 students, As of today, in the best cases, we are about 3,500 Jews, and the Jewish school system is less than 500 students. So you can see a demographic decline of more than 75%, okay? And it's a story. Well, what I'm going to tell you is a story of decline, diaspora, okay? The Jews went to the diaspora. By the way, also the Venezuelan, the non-Jews Venezuela also went to the diaspora. They're saying that about 8 million people left the country during the Chávez regime, okay? And resilience, we have to adapt, and we have to make all the changes in order to overcome all the obstacles. But then we have prosperity, but then the system began to crack, okay? And here I want to share you, in 1 minute, a special video I prepared for you. I took in some place when Chávez it have a hostile discourse towards Israel, okay? The expulsion of the Israeli ambassador, the attack to the synagogue in Caracas, and the alliance in Iran. There are many, many more issues. I just choose 4, okay, so you can understand.
Entonces, ese es un ejemplo de doble moral. El gobierno de Obama condena el terrorismo, siempre y cuando no sea cometido por ellos mismos. Por ellos, Estados Unidos o sus aliados, Israel. Nos acusa a nosotros, a mí me acusan de patrocinar el terrorismo. Son ellos los que patrocinan el terrorismo. Aprovecho para condenar de nuevo, desde el fondo de mi alma y de mis vísceras, al Estado de Israel. Maldito seas, Estado de Israel. Maldito sea, terroristas y asesinos. Y viva el pueblo palestino. ¡Viva! Pueblo heroico, pueblo bueno.
Y el asesinato contra el pueblo de Palestina, que tiene más de 60 años, es también un crimen contra todos los pueblos del mundo, contra todos los pueblos árabes, islámicos, contra todos los pueblos cristianos, contra los pueblos de América Latina y el Caribe, y así lo sentimos desde Venezuela, contra nuestro pueblo venezolano. Es por eso que el gobierno bolivariano del presidente Hugo Chávez, entre otras medidas de carácter político-diplomáticas, ha decidido el día de hoy declarar persona no grata y expulsar al embajador del Estado de Israel.
"15 men carrying long weapons entered the Caracas synagogue shortly before midnight, destroyed religious elements and painted anti-Semitic slogans on the walls.
15 armed people entered the Jewish community synagogue in Caracas. The hooded men destroyed the facilities, desecrated the premises, broke the scrolls of the Torah, sacred scripture of the religion, and covered the walls, anti-Semitic contexts. According to the police, the men left the synagogue and took the videos of the 5:00 a.m. that their vandalism lasted.
Among countless individuals who persist in honoring the liberator's legacy, we respectfully acknowledge Mr. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the esteemed President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as a symbolic figure within the historical context.
Okay, so we have lots of material against, about Chavez. I just choose, as I told you, 4 issues that are very, very representative. When Chavez, cursed Israel, and by the way, he got sick and he died from the bottom of his stomach. From there, he got sick. The expulsion of the ambassador, the attack to the synagogue. So what I am trying to say, and to see the president of Iran in Venezuela, that's, wow, we were all in shock that even though, that the United States did not authorize it, Chávez overcome that. He invited the president of Iran and he came to Venezuela. So basically what I wanted to summarize, that this political hostility, goes to an anti-Jewish incident, and the community is very vulnerable. That's the main message of when the state changes its posture towards the Jewish community. And what happened in Venezuela was not one event. It was the convergence of multiple forces. And then I want to share with you this model. We developed this model while I was in Venezuela, and we call it the explosive cocktail. And this cocktail is built with 4 components: the systemic violence, the economic collapse, the moral breakdown, and the institution failure. What we did during the years I was a consultant in Venezuela, I was collecting indicators, as for example, for the systematic, by the way, this model is built with 225 indicators. Okay, and here I show back then, I used to show back then in order to explain to people what's going on in Venezuela about the homicide, the kidnapping, the theft, the extortion. When you see here the points, because there were more indicators. As far as the economic collapse, the hyperinflation, the shortage we have, the salaries which are worth nothing, the collapse, purchase power, and more. As far as the moral breakdown, the lynching, we started seeing lynching, how people start taking the justice in their hands and doing public lynching. The brutality, violence 2.0, what I meant back then, that we have back then we started with the smartphones. So the delinquencies used to film how they kill their opponents, their enemies. It was terrible. The collective theft. As far as institutional failure, all the militarization of the civilian governance, all the political imprisonment, the alliances with very dangerous regimes like from Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran, and also all these hostile and diplomatic relations with China, Iran, and Russia. So what I'm trying to say with this model, that in some country, if you have a crisis in one of them, okay, but in Venezuela, you have a crisis in the 4 of them, and simultaneously. So you can imagine how crazy all this is. And it's an evolution, that's the reality, and was based on indicators. So what's the impact of this explosive cocktail? By the way, only this slide I can talk about 2 hours, and just to give you a small taste of the situation of Venezuela back then. All this impact of this model, we have mass immigration, as I told you previously. The statistics says about 8 million people emigrated. The export of criminal activities, you saw it in the United States. Trump speaks a lot about the criminality. And the trade distortions we can see because of the Venezuela during different periods has subsidized products. So there was a small smuggling of all these products. So this is the cocktail, the explosive cocktail, built with more than 220 indicators to show the situation in Venezuela. In addition, to be more practical, to be more straightforward, Venezuela is an oil country. Look here, how many her oil reserves? More than Saudi Arabia. Okay, her currency, Venezuela used to have the Bolivar, which whoever was involved with Venezuela, was $4.30 per dollar for many, many years. Okay, it was one of the most stable currency in the country. And here, during the Chávez era, okay, 14 zeros were taken from the currency. So, I looked for an example, a power example, to show you, the distortion of the economy, even though it's an oil country which has huge incomes. To understand this crisis, okay, I went a long way. First of all, I did with my friends, with my colleagues, we did a lot of research. This is our first book about the kidnaps. What we wanted with these two books is understand what's going on in Venezuela. The first one was about the kidnapping. The second one was about terrorism, okay? Then we developed proposals along the years. We're talking about 20 years here. We went for proposal here. We gave the local regime, the local governments and regional governments a solution. By the way, a solution that I learned in Israel about, a command centers, how to use it. And here, this is our methodology, security methodology. We use this book was back then to about 120 companies that we apply this methodology. So here we have proposals to cities, to big organizations, to families, to how to protect themselves. In this part in the research, here I did the research on my family, okay? That by the way, doing the research, I understand the importance to know where you come from. One of my biggest conclusions that even though that to know who is your father, who is your grandfather, which may be obvious for us, in this society, in Venezuela, an important part of the community, the society of Venezuela, they don't know who the father is. The mother is present. They don't know who the father is. As important. Here, it was my last book. It was not published. I finished the book in my first year in Israel. It's about I was always looking for solutions in the security field. So one day, what about if I ask my Jewish ancestry about how we can resolve or improve the security indicators? And I found a solution on the 10 Commandments. It took me about 5 years of research with the help with many rabbis. And I explained that from the 10 Commandments to know how to live with people and how it has an impact. It's a 300 book, which goes commandment by commandment, explains everything. I was surprised how our books are so great. They have the solutions there. To implement them is very, very difficult, but there are solutions there. And also, along the years, we were in these books here, bridging between Venezuela and Israel. We have a third book here on the right that we finished the book, but Chávez broke the diplomatic relations, so that we didn't publish it. And we were trying there to prove, here's in Spanish, Venezuela, Israel, Economías Unidas para el Mundo, which means Venezuela and Israel, economies united for the world. I see that both countries complement each other in order to offer services, products to the world. Now I want to show you another personal example, okay? How a regime turns a person into an enemy. And that's a personal case, okay? This happened many years ago to myself. Especially for this conference, I saw all the videos, which was difficult for me, and I extracted 1 minute to show you how these people is also a Nazi strategy, how they took my name and they made of me an enemy. Okay, they accused me, they discredited, and we'll see the video is less than 1 minute.
Samy Yecutieli, este par de sujetos, si usted escarba más, mire, vamos a encontrarnos cosas gravísimas. Usted es un ciberterrorista. Yecutieli ha aparecido varias veces por televisión. En esa empresa de seguridad presta adiestramiento policial y militar presa, es decir, que son perros de la guerra vinculados a la seguridad. También vinculado al mundo del sionismo, porque él viene de familia iraní y también de una familia nacida en Tel Aviv. Se vinieron a Venezuela y bueno, han generado todo lo que es el emporio, porque es un emporio en lo que significa la seguridad de los Yecutieli, Cohen.
Okay, and I have dozens of hours of TV hour nationwide, okay, where they're speaking about us, and you know, things, you know, nothing is real, okay. There are some realities, you know, that I'm Jewish, that my father was born in Tel Aviv, that my family all that is true, but it's taken to a negative side, okay. Yes, I do have a company, but I'm not a mercenary. There were legal companies. Anyway, you know, for about 5 weeks, okay, they were, you know, at night talking. So I have no option to defend myself, okay, and they did the damage. My partner, he left immediately the country. I decided to stay and confront them. People helped me to defend myself and confront them, but you know, it's a risky. So what I wanted to show you, you know, when you are with this kind of regime, everything can happen. Okay? So when a country collapses, people leave, unfortunately. And we decided at some point to leave the country, specifically in 2017. Okay? I left with my wife and 3 daughters, Sigal, Yael, and Tamar. They were born in Venezuela. They're adapting to a new country. Here you can see my 2 oldest daughters in the army. Today, she's the Sigal, the big one, he's an officer. This morning, she arrived at 7 o'clock at home from base. She's involved with Lebanon. My second daughter, she finished the army about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Okay, they're doing great to integrate themselves. Here you have my second and my third daughters on my birthday giving me, you know, the results of excellent results. Just today, I received from my small daughter an exam, the math exam, with 100 points. She received. What I'm trying to tell you, they came to Israel and they're doing efforts to integrate and be part of the society. That's the message. Okay, as myself, I arrived in Israel at my age 52 back then. Okay, I had to change, you know, I knew the Hebrew, but I had to change the mentality. You know, it became to real estate. Okay, and the reason we made Aliyah with my wife, okay, is to build a better future for my daughters. And when I see the results, even though it was very difficult and very challenging, you know, we can see here how we are seeing the results. Okay, now I want to talk, okay, with the extraction of Maduro. By the way, that was the reason I was invited for this. And so with the extraction of Maduro, a new chapter begins, but not necessarily new systems. We have a lot of expectation. It's the beginning of something new. We are very thankful to Trump and the US government that they started this process. We have the expectation that we'll do the cleaning, they will change the regime, to have elections, and that's expectations, hopefully. So as of now, the Maduro regime, Maduro is gone. He was extracted. He's in New York, okay? But the regime is still there. Here we have Chávez, and Maduro replaced Chávez. As you saw in the video, when there was the expulsion of the ambassador, Maduro was the foreign minister, okay? And she was when Maduro became president, Delcy was the vice president, and she's now the interim president, okay? So what's the change? Maduro was removed, but the power still remains with the Chavez regime, even though, you know, it's subordinated with the US alignments. What remains? Well, we still have a fragile economy. The institutions are very weak. And that's why I also show, when I spoke about the Jewish community and I show all the institutions, I understood the importance when you have good institutions as the Jewish community has, and Venezuela has weak institutions. That's why we all see the cocktails and all this terrible situation. Okay, we can see external influence, specifically now, these days, from the US. Okay, and the political prisoners, there are still, many of them were left out, but they still remain in detention. And if they are outside, they have to show up. Okay, today, after that Maduro is out and the US is in charge, I took this study was done about 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, and I took some information so you have an idea. 79% still that the economy is widely broken. 59% about the corruption is the main problem. Okay, almost 90% the mass migration. As I told you, more than 8 million people left. 45% are in disapproval with the interim president. People like very much, more than half, that the influence of the US, okay, and 51% are considering to return to Venezuela with this change of regime. So decades of my conclusion of this Venezuela to today, the decades of crisis and migration exhausted the country. Okay, Venezuela now faces an uncertain political reset, and we are hopefully, expecting to change to elections, and Maria Corina, which has proven to be a leader. By the way, Maria Corina Machado was the Prize Nobel for this year. Hopefully, she will take care of the country. And here, I want to take one specific case of a Jewish family. Okay, this is Gabriel Varnaghi and his brother were born in Romania. Okay, their parents are survivors from the Holocaust. Daniel is the small brother, but he was already born in Venezuela. Daniel went to school with me at the MBA. We did a master's in business together in Caracas, and then he kept on studying. He did a doctoral, and he was in jail for 1 year. This guy, this nice guy, that he's not even, he cannot kill a mosquito, was in jail for 1 year. Okay, he was released about a month ago, five weeks ago. I spoke to him, obviously. He was not taken to court, anything. He's now at home, but he cannot leave the country. And Shirley, which is the daughter of Gabriel Varnaghi and the nephew of Daniel, okay, last about 1 week or 10 days ago, she went back to TV, and I want to share you what she says on the new news TV as an anchor.
Today begins a space where the country can be seen complete every night. Returning to television in Venezuela, to a news broadcast at a prime time, is to rediscover the responsibility of speaking to a country that needs all voices, not just one, that deserves to be contrasted, questioned, and understood. This news program was born with a clear conviction that the country can be seen without filters, without absences, without silences, that it is here. All their voices, their questions, their complaints, their nuances. Let what makes you uncomfortable and also what unites you be heard. Every night we will be here to tell you what is happening in the country with rigor and respect. For us, for the Noticias Venevisión team, it is a commitment to the country, to reality, to the facts, and to each citizen. Today, the news returns to prime time in Venezuela, and tonight we begin.
When I heard this for the first time a few days ago, I couldn't believe that Shirley Varnaghi, a Jew, she's back in one of the biggest TV channels. The news, as she tells, needs all voices, not just one. Maybe for you in the US it's obvious, but for us it's not obvious. And the last thing I want to tell about the Barnaghi family, look at Shirley, okay? She had 1.3 followers. How she defines herself. She lives in Venezuela with all this regime. The first thing, Judía, a Jew, Venezuela, and a journalist. The three of them is dangerous. and she's, you know, that's an example of the members of the Jewish family in Venezuela. Like this, I can tell you many, many examples, but this was very, very new. So that's why I chose this family to share with you. Okay, so this is about Venezuela and what happened when institutions break down. That's my main conclusion of Venezuela. You saw the Jewish community with strong institutions. Today they are weak because also the circumstances of Venezuela. And the Venezuela, the country itself, with very, very weak institutions. Okay, so to start ending my conference, what this journey has taught me. First of all, the fragility. Okay, no country is immune. Institutions must be protected. Okay, Venezuela, the Venezuelan Jewish community, I think is a model, a reference. I'm very proud of the leader of my community with the work they did, a model of organization, education, and resilience, how they adapted themselves. I am very grateful to Israel that gave me the opportunity, you know, to build the future of my daughters, the continuity, okay, four generations that are born in Jerusalem, okay, and the next generation right now is building its life in Israel. My conclusion, Venezuela did not collapse in one day, okay? It's a long, long process, okay? The Jewish community was not pushed in one act. It was a process. But the Chávez regime eroded their reality, okay? Until to immigrate became inevitable, okay? That's why so many of us, Jews and non-Jews, will left the country because of the situation I explained. To finish, I want to take an opportunity to thank to my grandfather. Okay, he is my future with my grandfather who showed me the way. Okay, he can see he is my grandfather. This is me. He showed me the way, Shvil HaZahav, to the rabbi, Shvil HaZahav, the golden way. He showed it to me. Okay, and all the efforts he did. Okay. He is hurt in order to protect me. And as years go by, I see it more obvious. All the things they did for me, for all of us, for the new generation, so we can go forward. And I myself, with my wife and 3 daughters, I am doing all my efforts the best I can in order also to show them the way and to be successful. Okay, so this is my presentation.